All right. Get out my little drama sheet here.
Nancy, do you mind if I just make that other announcement I just made? Because we've got some new people on here real
Yes.
quick.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, if everyone that's on, if your item is not up, we do ask that you turn your camera off and keep your microphone muted until that item that you're here for comes up. And if you are here to speak to public comment, you will be called upon. We'll just wait for you to be called upon to speak ahead of time. Thank you.
Okay, well, good afternoon. As Vice Chair of the Town of Barnstable Historical Commission, I have been asked as the next proceeding officer under current terms to open this meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and the meeting is of Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, acting under the provisions of the Code of the Town of Barnstable, SS 112-1 through 112-7. The Historical Commission will hold a public hearing on the following applications. The following applications have been determined significant and were referred to a public hearing. Please note that this meeting is recorded and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8 and High Definition Channel 1072 in accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Subset 20. I must inquire if anyone is taping this meeting, and if they are, please have their presence known. Erica, no? See nobody?
Okay. I do not see anybody.
Okay. We ask that during the afternoon proceedings, cell phones be turned off. Conversations other than those before the commission take place outside of this remote meeting. When an application is called, we ask the applicant and all interested parties and abutters to identify themselves. Lastly, as a best practice for meetings held remotely, where we may not be able to visually identify who is speaking, we ask all commission members and participants to identify themselves before making any motion or comment. Online audience members wishing to participate during the public comment section of a hearing can use the raise hand button, and we all have that. If you need help finding it, we can help you. Where was I here in my cheat sheet here? To notify the chair. Dial-in audience members wishing to participate during the public comment section of a hearing should press star 9, again, star 9 on their phone to notify the chair. All applicants will be muted. You must be recognized by the chair to participate. Our first event is to take a roll call attendance. And we will start with, I didn't make my list, but I certainly know everyone. We'll start with Bob Frazee.
Present.
Okay. Barbara DiBiase.
I'm here, Nancy.
Okay. Marilyn.
Here.
George Jessup is not here. Looks like. No. Cheryl Powell. Jack. No, Jack. No, Cheryl. She might be late. And no, Jack. Okay. And who didn't I mention? Marilyn Fifield. I think I got everyone but me. I'm here, Nancy Shoemaker. Okay. Please note that this meeting is recorded. Well, I did all that. It says election of chair.
I would go ahead and hold that off until the end of the meeting. Let's proceed with the applications first.
All right. So the first one is a continued application from 1180 Cotuit Holdings LLC, and that's at 1180 Main Street, Cotuit, map 033, parcel 033, built in 1853, contributing structure within Cotuit Historic District. And the built 1853, I don't know if that's accurate necessarily. These are cement and rock pillars. And they are asking for a removal of, maybe demolition of, existing front stone driveway pillars. Do we have somebody here representing or the owner themselves?
Peter, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, Peter Lomenzo representing the owner.
Oh, great. Thank you. So would you like to give us your case?
Yes, and speaking with Erica yesterday, for clarification purposes, Madam Chairman, what we're proposing to do is to take this particular pillar that she's circling, thank you, Erica, and move it to the far right driveway right over here. So you'd have a companion of two pillars that are approximately 60 feet apart max. They would not be changed and modified in any way. They're going to be picked up whole and moved from the left side of the property, just that one, to the right. And then as you see in the slide above, if you want to go back, this one on the right side of that driveway will remain intact as exactly as it is today. That's what we're proposing, and we ask for your approval.
Wow. I must say that's wonderful news. But should we open public comment? Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak?
Nancy, this is Erica Brown. I do not see anyone from the public wishing to speak to this item at this time.
Okay. How about our commission members?
A question about the age of the pillars. They were not built in 1853, or were they? It's rather difficult to tell by this motion.
I do not know.
And actually, I don't know either. They were part of an estate of Mabel Lewis Riley, and it was an estate. They were part of a bigger, larger estate called Rosemead. And the owner, until 1971, I think, 71 or 72, when she passed away, was quite a special young, not young, but a woman who, her father was the American H&B American Machine Company in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. She was a very active patron. There is, at the Museum of Fine Arts, there is a room named after her. She helped in many, many ways, in so many ways, including helping the needs of children and youth who needed some help. Just fascinating woman. I'm happy to hear that they are not going to be demolished. Just one's going to be moved, and I assume cleaned up a little bit.
Yes, ma'am. if you don't mind.
Bob? No, we don't mind. Bob,
I was just going to say I agree with Nancy. This is good news, and I would fully support what's being proposed. Personally, I think it's great. I don't know about the date, Barbara. Nancy, do you know roughly the date of that estate? The reason I'm asking is because the type of masonry construction that these pillars are made from, to me, reads a little bit later than the date for the house. I would think maybe towards the end of the 19th century, so late 1800s or early 20th century.
Yeah.
That's just a hunch. Either way, they're wonderful, and they're part of the personality of the neighborhood in a way that is clearly demonstrated by just a quick visit over there. You can see several others, and it's kind of neat.
I'm assuming, Bob, that the house itself was built in 1853. Recall how we had to split out these two motions, the pillars and the house. So,
yeah, my impression is that the date in the application refers to the house principally.
Yeah, right.
okay.
Yeah. There wasn't a homestead built there around 1799. I'm not finding it exactly a date, but the property in general, that whole property called Rosemead, has quite a history. Abolitionists, all sorts of interesting stories there. And those markers, I think, make that area very special. I know of 7 on Main Street, and then around the corner to Ocean View, there are apparently at least 2 more. So thank you. Anybody else? So anyone else want to make a comment?
Just as a point of order, Nancy, just so you're aware, it does look like both Cheryl Powell and Jack Kay just logged on as well.
Oh, great.
All right.
So I'm not actually a voting member for this then, because you have more than a sufficient quorum.
No.
Yes, you are still a voting member. We do not have
I-
George.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I beg your pardon. I thought we did. There you go.
Erica, just to
Yes.
confirm, I did send you an email letting you know that I might be a bit late and I may also have to leave
Yeah,
early.
I know
I
that.
wanted to make sure that message got through. Can I ask how far along you are? Sorry, I couldn't get away
Yep.
from the
We've
patient.
gotten the good news that the stone and cement pillars at 1180 Main Street in Katuitt are going to remain intact. One of them is going to be moved on maybe 20 feet, 30 feet away from where it is now. So it's all good news.
Okay, so question on point of order, or not point of order, but on open meeting order, because I missed the first part, if it's going to go to vote, just goes to what Bob Mr. Frazee was saying, or committee member Frazee was saying. Did I miss all but the last 5 minutes of that? I came in at about 6 minutes, 5 minutes past.
We have not taken a vote on the item yet. If you'd like, I can pull up the materials again. That way you and Jack can both see them. But we have not taken a vote on it yet. We had asked the public for any public comment, to which there was none. Barbara, Bob, and Nancy were giving their comments.
And I
Okay,
should, at this point, ask for someone to close our hearing, our public hearing. Have the public forum, right? Am I right, Erica? Am I doing that right?
well, that's if you're going to a motion, but before we have the motion, can Jack and I have a look at
Oh,
them so we
okay,
can
all
vote? Because if we haven't seen the material, then I apologize profusely.
Yeah, no, I don't mean for us, but I think I have to close the public part of the hearing.
Nancy, why don't we go ahead and share this real quick one more time, and then we'll go ahead and close
Yeah.
the public.
And
hearing.
I was a part of the meeting when this originally came to us, so I am familiar with it. Okay, and the result was they can move them?
Yes, so they're
They're
going to
gonna
move
move
this one
one.
right here on the left-hand side.
Yep,
It's covered in vine, and they're going to move it as a whole unit. And they're going to move it to this side on the right-hand side
Excellent.
near the garage.
I think I'm one of the people who suggested that. I thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure I'm up to date so that there's no questions as to voting. That's what it is.
Great. Do I hear a motion to close public hearing, or anybody else want to speak?
So move.
I'll second.
Okay, that's Bob Frazee and Cheryl Powell. So we will take a roll call here, a voting. Bob,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Marilyn,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
and I, Nancy Shoemaker. Nancy Shoemaker, aye. Did somebody else? Oh, Jack came in. Who did you
Jack
say?
came in.
Somebody else?
Yes, Jack, come on. Jack, you are muted. You'll have to unmute yourself. Are you there?
Oh, he's muted and he's a symbol, not a person there. Jack?
Mm,
He's still, I think he just went off to come back on again, I assume.
Yeah,
Might have had a
we do
bad
have quorum for the item, so I would carry the motion and
Okay, so that closes the public hearing. Any other discussion?
No.
Then can we have someone give us a motion for 1180 Katuitt Main Street?
I can read it. I'd be happy to.
there you go.
Great, thank you, Barbara.
1180, this motion is regarding 1180 Katuitt Holdings LLC, 1180 Main Street in Katuitt, map 033, parcel 033, built 1853, contributing structure within the Katuitt Historic District, partial demolition, removal of the existing front stone driveway pillars. Motion one, I move after review and consideration of public testimony, the application, and associated materials, the significant building 1180 Main Street, Katuitt is a preferably preserved significant building.
Can we alter that, Erica, or add on to it instead of removal, it's going to be removed and placed.
I would go
Nearby.
ahead and make
Barbara?
with the modification that instead of being removed, that the pillar will be relocated to the right-hand side of the drive.
I'll second that with the modifications.
Okay. So we'll do our roll call. First of all, an aye will impose an 18-month delay. A nay will not impose an 18-month delay. So Marilyn Fifield.
Aye.
Cheryl Powell. Oh, wait a minute. An aye will impose an 18-month delay. Marilyn, is that what you wanted to do?
I said nay.
Oh, I thought I heard aye. Okay,
Oh, I'm
sorry.
And I also say nay, I don't want the 18-month delay.
Okay, Bob
Nay.
and Barbara DiBiase,
Nay.
Jack Kay.
Nay.
All right. And Nancy Shoemaker? Nay. Okay, moving on
George
to the
Jessup.
next motion.
George Jessup, nay.
Oh,
Hey,
George,
George.
welcome.
All I could get was the audio. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Marilyn, or not Marilyn, Nancy, just a question. Did George actually hear the information? Was he here when Jack and I were able to view it? Does he know what we're saying aye or nay for?
George,
Yes,
you were here? Okay,
I did. I just couldn't unmute. So
all right. Okay, so now we
Thank
need
you.
another motion.
If motion one fails with a nay vote, I move that in accordance with section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historic Commission determines that the partial demolition of the building located at 1180 Main Street, Katuitt, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
I'll second that.
Okay, and that was Cheryl. And I vote determines that the, if I can add here, the partial demolition and replacement of, or the moving of the structure is not detrimental, then no demolition delay is imposed. All right, Marilyn Fifield.
Tell me again which way the vote goes.
And I vote would determine that there will be no delay.
Aye.
Okay, George,
aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and Nancy Shoemaker, aye. So thank you. You have made our day.
You're welcome.
And
Thank
if
you.
if the owner of the house would like any more historical information, we do have a little bit of information. You can always get it on Form Bs too, but
Yes, I will contact Erica. I just want to thank the committee and also the professionalism and detail orientation of Erica. Very helpful in keeping us focused. You should be proud of her work and your efforts. We all appreciate you very much. Thank you.
I very much agree. I think we all do.
Very nice. Thank
Thank
you.
Okay, our next hearing is Luongo. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Real estate. It's at 22 Fifth Avenue, West Hyannisport, map 245, parcel 133, built in 1940. Full demolition of the existing house. Do we have someone here representing the owners or the owners themselves?
Yes, we do. And good afternoon. My name is Patrick Nickerson, representing Luongo Real Estate LLC. It's the present owner of the property. Along with me are Marianne Luongo, who's representing the LLC, John Kenny, attorney at law in my office, employer, as well as Michael Kahn from the Patrick Ahern architectural firm. We may be asking for Michael's help later, depending on how this goes. But essentially, what we're seeking today is a redetermination of the November 17th, 2020 hearing before this commission, that the demolition of this structure would not be detrimental to the historical, cultural, or architectural heritage and resources of the town. And we're seeking a redetermination that the existing home is not a preferably preserved significant building under the bylaw. Erica, you've read my mind. If you could pull up that page, I think it's 13 of the application, just so we can go over so this is the structure. On November 17th, 2020, Mary Ann and a representative appeared and provided testimony to this commission, essentially offering evidence that Mary Ann was seeking to purchase the property and tear it down and rebuild it with a new structure to allow the highest and best use of the property as she saw fit. The reasons for tearing down the structure were that there were a number of issues found in 3 pre-purchase inspections. Those reports were provided to the commission in 2020 and have been re-provided for you here for your reference. They total about 118 pages, but the highlights essentially were concerning items found in the structure, such as mold, dirt crawl space basement, the cracked foundation, and water infiltration, presence of mice, elevated humidity in the basement, general poor grading, which contributed to the foundation and water infiltration issues, etc. So those issues still persist today, despite Mary Ann's attempts at remediating them. The commission also heard evidence in the form of testimony that the structure was devoid of any particular single type of architectural style. And as you're looking at it, is this a colonial? Is this a Cape style home? And what's going on over there on the right with that lookout type structure to the right of the chimney? And notice the number of different roof pitches that exist, looking from the left of your screen to the right of your screen. I counted about 9 different roof pitches on this structure, evidencing the many renovations it has had over the years. So the most significant renovation was in 1970, when the entire second floor was added, along with the lookout that you can see on the right of your screen, and a salt-style rear dormer that's available for viewing on page 14. That rear dormer was added, that salt-style dormer, along with the second floor and along with the lookout. There's a good view of it there. So it's our belief that this commission can and should renew its determination that the proposed demolition of this structure can be accomplished without a loss and would not be detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage and resources of the town. It's a mouthful. And that the commission can and should redetermine that the existing home is not preferably preserved a significant building. I'm happy to take any questions or field any comments to the best of my ability at this time.
Well, we'll open up to the public. And is there anyone here who would like to make a comment?
Nancy, this is Erica Brown. I do not see anyone wishing to speak to this item at this time.
So, commissioners, what do you all think? Or do you have questions? Bob, you're still, yeah.
I drove out and had a look today, defying the go back signs just before the village area. Just because I thought it's useful to lay eyes on a building. And I think the application and the materials more than fairly represent what it is. I agree personally with the prior determination. I don't have any major issues with that. I have a caution to share with the owner, and that is make sure that your new basement, if you put one in, is well enough above sea level to not have a problem again. Because I think with sea level, I can see you're nodding, with sea level rise, you know, you might want to pour a slab and move on. It's none of my affair, none of my business, but I'm just saying that anecdotally, that was one of the things that struck me, both reading your application and seeing the location and noting the drainage of the marsh proximate to you. The drainage ditches have filled in. I'm sure it doesn't drain as effectively as it used to either. But architecturally, I didn't see anything that screamed at me to be saved. I really didn't.
All right.
Mhm.
Other comments? Jack, Jack K? No?
No, I'm all right.
Okay, I'm glad that's a good thing.
I don't think that the change from, I believe the gentleman said 2020 was the first time he came before the board, the commission.
Yes.
So I can only imagine that it got worse.
All right, I'll close the public time of comment unless there is somebody else from the public who would like to speak. And I'm still not good at this. I need to get a vote to close public comment, right?
Yes, you want a motion and a second and a roll call vote.
So I'm looking for a motion to close public comment.
Bob Frazee, I move we close the public hearing.
I'll
Second.
second that.
Barbara?
Yes, I'll second that.
All right, we'll start with a vote on George.
Approved.
Okay. Cheryl?
Same.
Barbara?
I'm agree to it.
Yes.
Close the public hearing.
Yes,
Just closing this public hearing, yeah.
yes.
Marilyn, did I say Marilyn already? I don't think it.
Aye.
And I say aye. And George, did I get you yet? I think I did.
Yes.
You are missing Jack.
Jack. Oh, I'm sorry. Jack, can you
Yeah.
give it?
Aye.
All right. So now we need a motion, unless there's other comments, on how we are going to vote on this property at 222 Fifth Avenue, West Hyannisport, map 245, parcel 133.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question first?
Sure.
Erica, I was not involved in any of the discussions back in 2020. Does that mean that I should abstain from voting now, or does that have no bearing at all?
That was
has
an-
no bearing.
That
Yeah,
hearing
no bearing
came and
now. You
went.
can vote
Yeah.
on this item as it sits today.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, Barbara, you were so we're going to start our voting now. And first, I would like someone to do the motions.
I can do
Anybody?
that.
Barbara? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Be happy to. Luongo Real Estate LLC, 222 Fifth Avenue, West Hyannisport, map 245, parcel 133, built 1940. Full demolition of existing home, garage will not be demolished. Motion one, I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated materials, the significant building at 222 Fifth Avenue, West Hyannisport is a preferably preserved significant building.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And that was Cheryl?
Yep.
Okay. All right, an aye vote will impose an 18-month delay. A nay vote will not impose an 18-month delay. All right, Marilyn Fifield,
Nay.
George Jessup,
Nay.
Cheryl Powell,
Nay.
Jack Kay,
Nay.
Barbara DiBiase,
Nay.
Bob Frazee,
Nay.
Nancy Shoemaker, nay. Okay, we now need another motion, which will be the bottom one on the page.
May I go ahead and read that?
Okay, thank you.
Please.
I moved in accordance with section 112-3F. The Barnstable Historic Commission determines that the full demolition of the building located 222 Fifth Avenue, West Hyannisport is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
I'll second that.
That's Cheryl seconding that. Okay, roll call again. Bob,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Carolyn, and Nancy Shoemaker, aye. So you have been given permission to do as you have requested.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving right along. This is the Hyannisport Club, 2 Irving Avenue, Hyannisport, map 266, parcel 31, built circa 1754. Inventoried. They are requesting a full demolition of the single-family home to be demolished in its entirety. So we'll open public hearing, and is there somebody here to describe what you are requesting?
Yes, good afternoon. This is Mark Boudreau. I'm an attorney for Hyannisport Club, and I am, on behalf of the club, requesting permission to demolish the structure. This particular similar application was brought before the commission in 2009. At that time, the club had determined that it was no longer interested in maintaining the property. It had been used to house seasonally a tennis professional for about 3 months. And around that time, the professional actually refused to keep on staying there because of the presence of black mold. The second floor has not been used for well over 20 years for any residential purposes. The building itself is the Hezekiah Marchant House, originally built around 1754. It was added on to a couple of times. The main structure is actually supported by some cedar trees that are in fairly severe decay. Back in 2009, there was a vote to refer this to the Cape Cod Commission, and the application was withdrawn. In 2009, there were dozens and dozens of members of the community in Hyannisport that came forward against the demolition. In 2019, that number had dwindled down to about 10 or 12. And as of today, I don't believe you'll have much, if any, opposition. The structure itself has deteriorated significantly. It is open to the weather in 8 or so places. It is the home for many families of raccoons and rats and birds as well. And there is a significant amount of mold. In 2019, when the application was again denied, the club determined that the building was unsafe, and they put a fence around the entire structure. This is a club with quite a number of families and quite a lot of use. It's near the tennis courts and alongside the golf course, so there's quite a number of people going by on a regular basis. And the club was very worried about liability of anyone walking in and falling through or getting injured on the property itself. One of the issues I wanted to address is back in 2009 and 2019, the town had determined that this was not a single-family residence, even though it is listed on the assessor's records as being a single-family residence, and even though it was built for one purpose and one purpose only. The argument at that time was that it was an accessory to the golf course, but the town's own regulations list what accessory structures and uses can be put into place, and none of them at all talk about residences. So in furtherance of that, if this is to be considered a pre-existing non-conforming use as a residential structure accessory to the operation of a golf course, the club has the ability under 240 section 94 to change any use from what it has come to a principal use. This is in an RF1 zoning district, which allows single-family residents. So certainly we don't believe that it's proper for referral to the Cape Cod Commission, but more importantly, the building is in severe deterioration. We did about 12 years ago have a builder from West Barnstable come in and with the idea of potentially moving it to the north side. He made the determination that the structure would not be movable, it would collapse on itself. He also felt that there were not enough significant historical architectural elements to make it worth his while. In any event, I have with me Tom Colombo. He is the club manager, and he takes care of the grounds, and his offices are directly across from this house, and he wanted to just say a few things about the building itself. Tom?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm the golf course superintendent, Tom Colombo. I've been employed at Hyannisport Club for 16 years now. I can recollect my first year there in 2008. It was occupied by the tennis pro, as Mark mentioned. It's right smack in the middle of the golf maintenance operation. I've pretty much watched it deteriorate, unfortunately, but as Mark stated, it is infested with raccoons, mice, rats, birds. It's open to the elements. There's mold. Thus, 4 years ago, we were asked to put a fence up around it, just to keep people safe. We have a lot of kids at the club that pass by there playing golf, tennis, etc. And just out of safety, it's remained in this state now for some time and getting worse. But again, it's it was once a great house, I'm sure, but it's in pretty poor condition.
I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Yeah, we'll first ask if there are members of the public here, and do they have any questions or would they like to make some statements? Raise your hand if you would like to do so.
Yes, it looks like Farley Lewis, that's what your name says on there, would like to make a comment. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm Farley Lewis. I live in Hyannisport. I have for almost all my life now. And I just wanted to make a comment that I am very saddened and disappointed to see the neglect that this house was given. And I feel as though it didn't have to end this way. And I must say I'm not pleased at all with how the club has managed this. So that's all I have to say, but it's just a sad ending to a perfectly nice house. Thank you.
Other comments? No?
For
Could I
anyone that is on,
Can I respond to that yet after public comment is closed?
Well, you can respond right now to Ms. Lewis.
Okay. I come here today kind of wearing two hats. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, I was the head of the tennis committee. One winter, there was about a 5 or 6 foot hole in the roof, and I was able to get the club to agree to put a 60-year hurricane roof on, which is probably one of the reasons that the building is still standing. Back then, the membership has changed quite a bit. Back then, there was no interest in putting a lot of money into it. I tried, and 30 some odd years have gone by, and it's pretty obvious that there is no interest. I share the sentiments of the last speaker, but the building is in the shape that it is, unfortunately.
Right. I'll close public comment unless there's anybody else.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. This is Erica Brown. I do not see anyone else raising their hand and wishing to speak to this item at this time.
So can we have a motion to close?
Bob
public-
Frazee, move we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right, so we will do a roll call again. Aye to close the public hearing. Cheryl Powell,
Aye.
George Jessup,
Aye.
Marilyn Fifield,
Aye.
Jack Kay,
Aye.
Barbara DiBiase,
Aye.
Bob Frazee,
Aye.
Nancy Shoemaker, aye. So comments by the commissioners? Or questions? And Bob?
Let George go.
I recall
George, go ahead.
this building. I do recall going through this building, 20 years ago, or at least 15 years ago. And at the time, it was deteriorating through lack of use. It had been utilized as a dormitory, as I recall, for summertime employees, other than the tennis instructor. But it was unused at the time of the last request. And the condition of it was deteriorated at that time. I can only imagine what it's like now. I'm surprised it hasn't been subjected to a conflagration of some kind, knowing that the rodents would eat. I assume that the electricity has been shut off, that the water has been shut off, and that the building is basically isolated. I have no objection to taking it back.
All right, George.
Thank you.
Bob?
Yeah, I don't disagree with George's conclusion. I absolutely echo Farley Lewis's sentiments. Not so much that I think the club's done a bad job. I don't want to throw the club under the bus. And Mark, I appreciate your comment. I think I've spoken with Nancy about this by telephone earlier because I was part of the first review with Jim Gould walking through the building back in 2009, which resulted in an update to the Form B. And, Jim's research on it proved why it's historically significant to the community, its age and its associations with important members of the early Hyannisport community are well-founded and well-proven. But even then, it was in pretty tough shape. And, a lot of the structural members were hard to look at and to inspect. Those that were visible even then were badly infested with powder post beetles and had carpenter ant damage, and there was rot. And I'm afraid that I've always felt that as soon as in 1926, when the land was sold to the club by the Marchant family,
Yes.
for the purpose of establishing a permanent golf course with 18 holes, it sort of rendered this original structure obsolete almost beginning then, in that it became Grand Central Station for the maintenance and operations of the golf and tennis organization. That's not necessarily a bad or an evil thing. I don't mean that as criticism. I just mean that as a tough set of circumstances for a building of this age. And bringing it fast forward to time present, in 2009, when it was referred to the commission and everyone came out to support it, again in 2019, when a number of people did. In each case, and I rewatched what date was it? 5/11/2009. I rewatched that hearing on video before this meeting. I had it on my own personal computer because I downloaded it back in 2009. I was that interested in this building. And, the sentiments were very similar then that they would be now. And I bet they were in 2019, which was a meeting I missed. At that time, though, there was a great hope that with community support and the club's support, and perhaps an application to the Community Preservation Committee for Barnstable, there might be a way to jointly fund from maybe 2 or 3 sources a restoration effort on the building. It would make it viable again. Clearly that didn't happen. And again, I go back to its situation, its location, its circumstance. Just looking at the air view of it on Google Maps, you can see it's kind of utility building Grand Central Station there to support the club's operations. And it's just not a place somebody's going to want to live. And it's probably the proximate reason why the building was, I'm not going to use the word neglected, was overlooked for so long, except at critical moments like when there was a hole in the roof. So bless you for doing that. But I think this is sad, and I think it's explainable, and I don't think it's analogous to a circumstance that we might see in a much more, to pick up on your theme, a much more residential setting that this once was when the house was built, but that it had not been since the 1920s. So maybe we're lucky it lasted as long as it did. I'm with great reluctance, I will support its demolition at this point rather than fighting it, I believe.
One thing just to remind everyone, this is very likely the oldest structure in the area.
That's right.
1754, that's what, 270 years ago? That's a long time. Is there any chance, again, Bob and I were discussing this, and is there any chance we could come and take a look and just take a few pictures as a record of the structure?
No, absolutely. And I should let the commission know that about 10 days ago, I did receive a call from a gentleman who has a home on the Avenues, and he is not interested in the building, but he might be interested in the front facade or portions of it to move over in connection with a property he has with two principal structures on it. So the facade itself facing the water might be in part saved. Yeah. But absolutely, there is a chain link fence around it, and I could probably ask Tom to let you inside that if you wanted to. I would prefer no one go inside, just from a liability standpoint.
Yeah, I'll just take some pictures from the exterior and maybe up to a window yeah, we'll arrange that if the vote goes as I think it will. But yeah. Erica, you can talk with Erica and she can ask us when we will be able to come over and do that.
Could I add to that, Mark? Thank you. I mean, that's good news about the portion of the facade. I think we believe in saving what can be saved if it's significant, and that's an important part of the character of the building. I looked in reviewing the survey of the building that we did with Jim Gould. There are a number of super wide pine boards that are original to the structure. There might still be some chestnut beams and posts that a portion of which is reusable. One of the things that Protect Our Past, an organization in Chatham, has been promoting is the preservation of materials from demolished buildings so they can be resawn or reused or reconfigured into restoration work elsewhere. And Nancy and I talked about that too. I believe there is an organization on the Cape that's willing to receive things like that. If we go to a demolition and things are coming apart, it might be very nice to try and save some additional things if it doesn't inconvenience whoever's doing the work too much.
Amazing how different the lumber of 300 years, 270 years ago is to what is now. You know, what is now has been grown quickly with a lot more space between the life rings and very, very different. So there are some strange history geeks like us who might want to save a little bit of the wood, and it would be nice to know it was saved.
Anyway.
Any other comments? Thank you, Bob. Well, how about we have a motion to have a vote?
Could I add one quick comment?
Sure.
I would prefer, given the condition of the property, if the commission could see its way to reduce the waiting period to 6 months from 18. That would be my only request.
Well, we can't do that, but if we were to have an 18-month delay for the third time, you could always come back within a month or 2 or 3 and say, I've tried and blah, blah, blah. And then we are always very welcome to listen to what someone has tried to do to save the building, and then we'll vote accordingly. But I don't want to say anything, but I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Thank you.
So, Can we get a motion from someone?
What exact motion are you looking for?
Motions make to determine what the commission wants to do. And that would probably Barbara and Cheryl are the ones who
Oh,
have.
sure.
Yeah.
I misunderstood. I'm sorry. I thought you.
And just to let you know, the for some reason when I exited the patient stuff, I can't find the motion thing that was sent to me. That's why I'm not helping out with the motion. So sorry about that, but I'm happy to participate in the vote on it.
No, I'm happy to do
Just
it. No
as
worries.
a point of order, because I did include a motion for referral to the Cape Cod Commission. It sounds like that has not been talked about. I would proceed with the regular motions, Barbara.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erica.
And I don't, if it goes in a certain way, we would not even do that other motion on the next page.
I understand. Okay. The Hyannisport Club, 2 Irving Avenue, Hyannisport, map 266, parcel 31, built circa 1754, inventoried. Full demolition, single-family home to be demolished in its entirety. Motion 1, I move after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated materials, the significant building at 2 Irving Avenue, Hyannisport is a preferably preserved significant building.
Second.
I'll second that.
George does about second.
30 seconds.
Lots of this.
Okay. George? Was that George? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's a great
I
question.
vote would impose an 18-month delay. A nay vote will not impose an 18-month delay. Okay, Bob Frazee.
Nay.
Barbara?
Nay, with sadness.
Yeah. Jack?
Likewise.
Nay.
Cheryl?
Nay.
George?
No.
And Marilyn?
Nay.
And Nancy Shoemaker? Nay. So move on, if you would, Barbara, to
Yes.
next motion.
If motion 1 fails, a nay vote, I move that in accordance with section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historic Commission determines that the full demolition of the building located at 2 Irving Avenue, Hyannisport is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
I'll second that.
That's Cheryl. Okay, Marilyn. And let me just first say that an aye vote determines that the full demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental. No demolition delay is imposed.
Aye.
And George Jessup?
Aye.
Okay. Cheryl?
Aye.
Jack Kay?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And Nancy Shoemaker? Aye. So we do not need to go to the other sheet with that motion. And you are free to demolish the building, sadly, but we understand. But I really would appreciate it if you would let Erica know when a good time is. And, 1, 2, 3 of us might come and just take a look and see what we can.
Yeah, absolutely. My office is about a mile away, so I'd be happy to assist if I could.
Great.
Thank you, Mark. That'd be great.
Very good.
And thank you,
Appreciate it.
Farley, for coming in too.
Yeah, very definitely, Farley. Thank you.
And Erica, as per the email I sent to you, I have received a thing saying that I do have to go. So I see that you do have a quorum. I apologize, but it's one of those things that has come up. Did you have any questions of me before I?
No, I think we're good. Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay,
Thank you, Cheryl.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have the next one. Let me grab my right notes. Well, I've got the address here. The next one is 94 Stevens Street LLC, 94 Stevens Street, Hyannis, map 309, parcel 231, built in 1902 in Katuitt, and then moved to Hyannis in 1949. This is a partial demolition of existing buildings and relocation of historical portion to 25 Lincoln Street, Hyannis, to be attached to the existing church on that premises. And this is just to make sure everyone knows, this came before us maybe 3 months ago. I think it might be 3 months. And this is north of North Street in Hyannis. It was the Christian Science Church, which is no longer. They're going to be putting in some affordable, and not just affordable, but housing. 4 stories is from what I understand. And I had asked, because this was a public building and there were so many memories, I'm sure, from weddings to christenings to funerals, that some of that building be kept alive around. And it sounds like it's going to be able to, the portion that you see in the front, that one roof that's lower than the other one. But I will leave it to the people who are here to describe it to us.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Historical Committee. For the record, my name is John Kenny, an attorney with the law office in Centerville. I'm trying to get that sun off my face there. Joining me this morning is my associate, or this afternoon is my associate, Patrick Nickerson. I believe Roberto Meyer is on, and I hope Jim Smith, our architect, is on. After we had our meeting and you imposed a delay, we made many attempts to find different places to move what we believe is the major portion of the structure that was moved over from Katuitt to Stevens Street in Hyannis. At one point, my client had talked with the fire department across the street, and they had inquired about possibly using that front portion as a shed. So we thought that would have been a great relocation, since it would have been directly across the street in the same neighborhood. But after consultation with the fire department turned down the idea and decided that they did not want it. We looked around to several different other places, and we've come up with the church at the corner of Lincoln Street and West Main Street. The pastor there has indicated that he would like to add it to his building. It's currently undergoing renovations, going under renovations for quite a while, since there was a fire there. But there's been a lot of recent activity, and the pastor has indicated that he would like to make use of it as part of his church. So continues a long time history of that portion of the structure as a religious building. And if Jim's on record online, I'd ask Jim to go ahead and take over and kind of talk about what's going to happen with that portion of the structure if approved by the committee. Jim, are you with us? Erica, can you see if Jim, I didn't see him on the list here.
I don't see anyone named Jim on the meeting.
Okay. Is Roberto online?
I don't see a Roberto either.
Okay. I guess it's Patrick and I. I was expecting both of them. As you can see here from the elevations, the pastor is proposing to have that portion of the building moved over and added on to his church. I can't tell you the specific purposes for what he's going to use it, quite frankly, but it does preserve, as I stated, the main portion of the structure that was moved from Katuitt to Hyannis would now go from remain in Hyannis, but over to the church at West Main Street and Lincoln Street and become part of the existing church there. So I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee may have. I should also add that the rest of the structure on Stevens Street would be demolished and replaced with the new proposed apartment building. We looked at trying to incorporate that front area into the proposed design, and frankly, it just didn't work, didn't make sense. And so that's when my client really went to school on trying to find a place to relocate this and was successful with a church on Lincoln Street.
I'd like to open the hearing up to the public. Is there anyone to comment, ask questions?
Chair, this is Erica Brown. I don't see anyone wishing to speak to this at this time.
All right, so I guess we should vote to close public hearing, or should I wait?
Close the public hearing.
You
All
can
right.
close the public hearing.
Okay, so I need a motion for that.
Motion to close the public hearing?
That's
I'll
Barbara.
second that. Bob Frazee, second it.
Okay. All right, so we'll go through a roll call. Bob,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
and Nancy Shoemaker, aye. So now comment among the commissioners.
You didn't call Marilyn.
Oh, Marilyn.
I voted
I had your
aye.
name here. Marilyn, what would you vote?
I voted aye.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I think it's a great solution for that front of the building. It preserves the building and the uses would be very similar, if not the same. So kudos for finding that. It's a great solution.
The credit goes
I-
to Roberto Maya.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I thought as soon as I heard about this. My only comment, question, or invitation would be if there's some way to turn the structure so that when it's finally placed, its facade could be visible from a public way, as opposed, I think it's the way it's set up, it's facing the abutting property at its rear. And, this is still a better solution than some of them could have been, and I get that, but if there were any chance to rotate it slightly from the way it's proposed, it would make it visible for people to see from Lincoln Road. And I don't think they're going to be able to see it. I'm not asking you to make promises about that. I'm just putting it out there as if you could, it sure would be nice kind of a thing.
I noticed that too, Mr. Frazee, and I don't know why. I'm assuming it's a kind of probably how the two pieces of the building would come together from a floor plan consideration, but I'll certainly pass that suggestion on.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
My one concern is the moving. And we've had some things that have been done maybe out of a lack of caution and care. And sometimes I think they were sort of planned. So, when we know the date is, anything we can do to help, I really hope that part of the building can be moved successfully to Lincoln Road.
That is certainly my client's intent. I mean, he spent quite a bit of time trying to find a solution. There's no intent of, having it fall apart in the process. The idea here is to move it. We have a perfect location for it, we think.
Yeah, so the current owner is going to be doing the moving for the church. Yes.
I believe that's correct, yes.
Oh, that's good.
That's great.
Yeah. Other questions, anybody? George, Jack? No?
No, I have no.
You've been quiet
I have
today.
no questions. Yes. Well.
Do I have a move to close the hearing and take a vote?
So moved.
That's Barbara. Second?
Point of order, you've already closed the public hearing, so you can go ahead and move on to motions.
Okay.
So this is a motion to vote,
Okay.
which Barbara gave and then George seconded. Okay.
Sharon,
right.
do I go ahead, Nancy?
So yes,
Read
we
the
will.
motion? Okay.
Yes.
Motions and findings, 94 Stevens Street LLC, 94 Stevens Street, Hyannis, map 309, parcel 231, built 1902 in Katuitt and moved to Hyannis in 1949. Partial demolition of existing buildings and relocation of historical portion to number 25 Lincoln Street, Hyannis, to be attached to the existing church on the premises. Motion 1, I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated materials, the significant building at 94 Stevens Street, Hyannis, is a preferably preserved significant building.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that. Bob Frazee.
Bob? Okay, an aye vote will impose an 18-month delay. A nay will not impose an 18-month delay.
Chair, may I
I'm sorry.
comment here? You've already imposed an 18-month delay and found this to be significant structure. What we're proposing to do is to move that portion of the building from Stevens Street over to Lincoln Street and West Main Street and ask you to lift the delay for the demolition of the rest of the building. When we came before you before, it was suggested to us that if we found a place for the portion that was moved from Katuah to Hyannis, we could lift the remainder of the delay.
Now, Erica, we did completely put an 18-month delay on it 3 months ago.
Yes.
So is this,
So
is this motion maybe not quite written right?
So the way that I understood anyways, and because I have not been through with lifting an 18-month delay, but since it is a new application proposing a little bit of a different, it's a new proposal rather than building upon the last one. I looked at it as a new proposal, so I was following through with the regular motions of a new application.
Yeah, we can vote now.
Either way, you can vote to lift the 18-month delay of the previous one, or we can proceed with the same motion. I think either way, it'll follow through with the same intent.
Okay.
That new motion is to impose an 18-month delay.
Or
We'll
if
vote
they
no.
vote that if they vote nay, or sorry, if they vote, right now, this is to say it's a preferably preserved significant building. If they vote nay, that will not impose an 18-month delay. So there would be no 18-month delay for this proposal.
If you've been hearing, John,
Right.
the previous ones, this is something that we have to vote on first before we go any further. Okay.
Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
Okay, so did I say, yes, I did, but I'll repeat them again. And I will impose an 18-month delay and nay will not impose an 18-month delay. Marilyn Fifield,
Nay.
George Jessup,
Nay.
Cheryl O'Shea's not here, Jack Kay,
Nay.
Barbara DiBiase,
Nay.
and Robert Frazee,
Nay.
and Nancy Shoemaker, nay. So there will not be an 18-month delay. Now we need another motion. If at the bottom of the page. Yeah, please. Thank you, Barbara.
If motion 1 fails with a nay vote, I move that in accordance with section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the partial demolition and relocation of the building located 94 Stevens Street, Hyannis, is not detrimental to, the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
Bob Frazee, I second that.
All right. And John, just so that you understand, this is saying partial demolition because you're not being given permission to demolish the whole building. That part that we've discussed would be relocated. So an aye vote determines that the partial demolition and relocation of the church structure is not detrimental. No demolition delay imposed. Marilyn,
Aye.
George Jessup, George,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and Nancy, aye. So you are now permitted to demolish the rest of the building, but not the church structure that will be relocated to Lincoln Street in Hyannis.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the lesson on parliamentary procedures.
Well, I'm learning too.
Yeah, this is a learning curve for a lot of us, I would say.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one more hearing, and that is John and Karen Guarco. Did I say that anywhere near right? At 141 SD Avenue, number C, Hyannis, map 306, parcel 198, built in 1920. And it's a partial demolition. This is demolishing the existing left side roof for a new second story addition. The first floor walls to remain and materials will be like for like to match the existing home. So do we have someone here representing homeowners or?
Yes, I'm the applicant, I'm the builder and the representative for the client. So what I'm proposing here is to remove the roof structure of the home that you see there. There's an existing loft on the basically kind of the right side. So what the owner's wishing to do is the 3 bedrooms that are on the first floor, we're moving them to the second floor so that it will make more of just an open floor plan for the first floor. The kitchen area that's in the first floor, that's going to remain intact. So we're basically just taking out a couple of interior partitions on the first floor inside to just open up the living room. Those sliders that you see, everything on the lower section there is going to remain. We did I did renovate the adjoining unit 141B. We're basically kind of bring the 141C side up to the kind of the architectural character of what we did previously on the other unit. So you can see that we're kind of copying what we did with the dormer there and the arch window. The right side elevation has a gambrel style roof line, and so we're basically creating that on the second story here to bring the character of the house in unison.
Is that the last one? Oh,
Yeah,
17.
Yeah, you can see there that the 141B adjoining unit has that gambrel. That was the existing original roof line there that we had added the dormer to. So we're copying that style for the front, for the street side facing elevation.
Can you go up to the first one or two, Erica?
Sorry, Nancy, did you just want to see the front facade? Because this is the front facade.
Yeah, the first 1, 2, or 3 images at the very beginning.
Oh, at the very beginning.
Right. Yeah, number 3. And that's 2. So now the next one down. Yeah, I think that one tells us the most. So there will be a gambrel roof on number 3. This is 4. Go back to number 3 if you don't mind.
It is 3.
And there was a drawing from the last time, when I had seen it anyway. The roof is going to be higher quite a bit than the existing building. Yes.
Well, yeah, the existing second story of the adjoining unit had quite a low ceiling there. So, to bring it up to the, current requirements for building ceiling height, that's where we're going with that.
Eric is putting up, I think, number 12, and that'll show the.
And then the other thing too is where kind of easier to see it on the overhead floor plan, but where the 141B unit, it comes out, it staggers out farther out towards the street line. So in order to make the roof lines work properly with how the two units adjoin one another, naturally it's got to be higher. Otherwise, it create like a strange roof line going on there in a snow trap.
And get some of this hand. Stop that.
Any commissioner have questions to ask while the pictures are up?
I just have one comment. I drove out there today and I'm glad I did. One of the photos, and I don't know which one it is, shows the view from the street with that one. Thank you. The impression that I got on site was important in that the structure where the work is proposed sets considerably lower than the ones either side of it and in front of it.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think that's really important because one of the things that kind of catches the eye in the proposal is the height, which we were just discussing, of the ceilings and therefore the new gambrel roof. And while I think it will be tall and maybe the massing is a little challenging aesthetically, along with the companion pieces that are already in place, at least in terms of how it will impact the neighborhood or the look of the property from the street, I think is much less than you might think from the drawings. That's just, my own personal reaction, but I believe it's true.
And thank you, Bob, for being out there today and checking things out. It helps.
Yeah, certainly in comparison to the house that was rebuilt some time ago, I think that you're seeing there in the forefront. That definitely it will remain dominant to the street side than this unit in the back that would be remodeling. So
Well, and that's the other thought is that at first, just looking at the drawings and the comparison between the existing building and what it will look like when finished, I was really kind of alarmed at the amount more building there will be. And I was concerned about it in relation to its companions around the immediate neighborhood. And having visited once again, I'm a little less concerned about that. You can certainly find smaller houses and they're probably predominant, but there are definitely large examples. And the one right in the foreground here is one of those. So it's not out of keeping with some things that are already happening there.
yeah.
Well, we asked about public on this one, right? Did I?
No, we have not.
Okay. So can we open up the public hearings so that we can find out if anybody has questions? Neighbors, anybody?
This is Erica Brown. I don't see anyone from the public looking to speak to this at this time.
Yeah. All right, so we can close the public hearing with a motion.
Move we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
It's Barbara. Okay, George,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
Marilyn,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Nancy, aye. Okay, so further comments to, is it Keith? Keith Gilmore?
No more further comments from me.
Or comments from our commissioners?
I'm all set.
Yeah. I must say, Bob, you're going over there. Because when I first looked at the drawings, it seemed like that addition of the second floor was overwhelming. But it really seems like that little one-story section is inconsistent with the rest of the property at this point.
Well,
So-
and some of the elevation drawings indicate how the land drops away, continuing off towards the marsh, and that just amplifies the apparent size of that elevation. But the truth is, in relation to its surroundings, it's still a big change. I'm not trying to, sugarcoat that, but it's not as dramatic as the eye would take it from just the drawings in isolation by any means.
All right, anybody want to read a motion?
Sure. I'll read them.
Yeah, I think it might be Barbara. If you're getting hoarse, is the vice president allowed to do that? I suppose, but Barbara, if you don't mind, I'd love
Not
it.
at all. Be happy to. Motions and findings. Guarco, is that, am I saying that correctly?
Guaco, yes.
Okay, Guarco, John and Kevin.
Karen.
Karen, I'm sorry, my apologies. 141 SD Avenue, number C, Hyannis, map 306, parcel 198, built 1920. Partial demolition, demolish existing left side roof for new second story addition. First floor walls to remain and materials will be like for like to match the existing home. Motion 1. I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated materials, the significant building 141 SD Avenue, number C, Hyannis, is a preferably preserved significant building.
An aye vote will impose an 18-month delay. A nay vote will not impose an 18-month delay. Okay, Marilyn Fifield.
Did anyone second that?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'll be happy to second it.
Bob seconds.
Keep us honest here.
Again, an aye will impose an 18-month delay. A nay will not impose an 18-month delay. Marilyn Fifield.
Nay.
George Jessup.
Nay.
Jack Kay.
Nay.
Barbara DiBiase.
Nay.
Bob Frazee.
Nay.
Nancy Shoemaker. Nay. So we have one more motion.
If motion 1 fails, nay vote. I move that in accordance with section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historic Commission determines that the partial demolition of the building located at 141 Esty Avenue, number C, Hyannis, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
I'll second that, Jack Hay.
Thank you, Jack.
I'll second.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Now, an aye vote determines that the partial demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental. No demolition delay is imposed. Okay. Bob Frazee.
Aye.
Barbara DiBiase.
Aye.
Jack Kay.
Aye.
George Jessup.
Aye.
Marilyn Fifield.
Aye.
Nancy Shoemaker. Aye. So you are free to make your changes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time this afternoon.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Okay. Artifacts. Are we going to get a big, huge, wonderful description of some progress today?
Not too big, but we are still working with the final proposal for the consultant. We are just waiting on asset management right now. And then I know that Kate has reached out to Bob to let him know that update, and that we'll be reaching out to Bob to work with us and the consultant for the inventory. So that's where we're at right now. We are still hoping for, an end of month or beginning of April start date.
Just keep in mind, I launched my boat May 1st. I'm still willing to help, but I maybe have to do some of it from the fantail. You guys speed things up a little here.
If he's busy, maybe you have some other couple of gentlemen who are architects who could, come in, or, any of us could take over here and there.
Kidding. We've all waited long enough.
As you need to go fishing. All right. In-person versus remote meeting discussion.
Yeah, we touched on this the last time. I know that mostly everybody was good with going back to in-person, except for Marilyn. I just wanted to touch base again, just to be on the safe side and know which way we are thinking of proceeding for the next meetings. If we'd like to keep it remote or if we'd like to go to in-person.
Barbara has a comment.
I do have a question. I'm not a proponent of the remote, but I do want to ask a question. Was the law signed into effect until or through 2024?
So it is in effect until March of 2025. That was the same as last year. It was through until March of 2024, in which they decided to extend it. But we did have the one in-person meeting because they, when they had made the decision to extend, I didn't have enough time for the legal advertising to stay remote. So we had that one in-person meeting back in April. But since then we have kept to being remote. But it is extended until March of 2025 to have the remote option.
And important to know that we cannot have we cannot have remote added to the in-person. And if that means losing Marilyn Fifield, then I have a problem because she's a very important, knowledgeable member.
Thank
I
you.
agree with that.
Marilyn?
Yeah, I don't know whether I could be there if it's not remote. Personally, I think remote seems to work for everyone, but I guess everyone doesn't necessarily agree.
Well, I think in my case it works. It's just I feel that there's a value added component when meetings are in person. Not always. I mean, so sometimes it means fewer people can attend if they have to be someplace in person. And I think attendance maybe is more important. The ability to attend is more important than whether it's in person or not. I guess I want to say that. And that's true of many meetings that I go to that are remote. People on vacation in California attend local meetings. I mean, it just kind of works. So that's still a tremendous value to the Zoom or not hybrid, the virtual meeting. But I think in terms of the quality of the interactions, I think they're really better in person if possible.
I agree.
I don't know where that goes. I mean, again, I value Marilyn's contribution hugely.
Thank you.
I feel like we almost need to get back to normal too.
There's that. Yeah.
You know, this is.
Well, I think it may be expected of the government that we're part of by doing this as much as well. I mean, and not unfairly so to some degree. Marilyn, does CPC, do they do virtual meetings or do they?
Yes.
They do. Okay, fair enough.
So far.
No, that's okay. I'm just wondering who's breaking stride first in the mix of commissions and committees.
I was always able to count on the historical commission until now.
So, Erica, is it a vote by quorum or how?
That is decided upon you and how you would like to proceed. It doesn't necessarily have to go to a vote. Nancy could call for a vote on it if she feels inclined to do so, or it could just be a group conversation to agree or disagree.
I'd like to hear from George and from Jack.
Yeah.
Well, Bob could join a Zoom meeting from the fantail, and I could find a lovely spot to park and put the top down at the seashore as well.
I'm not sure that's really our intent, George.
But I question how you can look at the documentation that way.
Well, yes, that's the nice thing. I could take the laptop with me. And I could sit there at Dows's Beach on the jetty with a wetting a line and participating in the Zoom meeting as well. I've always felt that in-person meetings are so much more appropriate than electronic, for the simple reason that I like to be able to read what the applicant is really intending. And that comes from a face-to-face meeting that you don't get when you have a Zoom meeting.
Well, and we haven't seen you at all today, George. You might be off in Florida on a beach.
Well, yeah, you ought to see me in my new cap, but but I couldn't get my stupid computer to give me a Zoom connection. Microsoft and what else is just screwing me up royally. And it's because they want to do something like my web route. I can't get them to tell me how much it's going to cost. They want me to sign up with no monetary advance warning, and I refuse to do that kind of thing. So that's part of it, and it just frustrates me. I can get in the car and drive. Yeah.
But you could.
I'm sorry?
You could do it.
I could do it either way.
Yeah. Okay. Then Jack?
Yeah. Well, I got booted today on Zoom and had to call in because Zoom said I had to completely reapply for Zoom under a new version of it. And it was so frustrating to try and get through the paperwork. Knowing that the meeting was going on, I went to the phone version just to be part of the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Good thing.
it was really, I don't even know who to go to get the update that it demanded, but it was irritating to say the least. The only other thing that I can say is that I love this meeting, and I like the whole idea of being face to face. The thing about it is the Cape is a wasteland in the dead of winter, and there's not a lot of us that don't take some time away in the winter to go to Florida or California or wherever we want to go, and that puts us into an attendance issue without Zoom. So maybe there's a possibility that starting in April clear through to October, we are all in person, and then in the winter months when people go to visit family and are out of town on Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter or whatever, we retreat back to the Zoom option because there's so little business for us to attend to. So there's another option.
That is an option, I think, and I know that we have our government access person wanting to talk, but
Sarah, yeah.
Sarah, okay. So can I ask you all from the town, can we do something like that, like be in person and then go back between now and March 2025? So could we go back in October or November to Zoom until March 25th when we don't know what would happen?
Correct. Yeah, you can. You do have the option. We do ask that you're not, month to month. If you're going to be in person, you're going to be in person. And if you're going to switch, so Airport Commission right now over the winter, they are meeting via Zoom. And they think they've been doing that, I think, November, and they're coming back in person in May. So you do have that option if you wanted to do it for over like the winter months. You could do Zoom, and then when the weather's warmer, you can go to in person. But like I said, we do ask that you just, don't kind of play it by ear, month to month. Oh, what are we going to do this month? It's
because you have to give them the people applicants notice. Yeah.
Yep. And then the other thing I wanted to mention with what Jack was saying, because I'm working on an email to send to all staff, is that you do need to keep your Zoom up to date. They do updates frequently. If you don't know how to do the update, you can just Google Zoom update and you can find directions that way. But I think that's what Jack's problem was tonight. There's a certain point where you can no longer use Zoom until you've updated it because they add so many different new things and they update the software constantly. So you do need to keep it up to date. I know there are people that haven't updated it in probably over a year. So my guess is that's what happens. So if you haven't updated your Zoom and you're not sure how, just give it a Google and they'll show you how to do it.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Got to do the same thing myself. Thank you.
Yeah, I've found that having a Zoom account as opposed to just using the freebie app and logging on through the link, I actually sign on first and, fool around with it a little bit and make the background blur and have, the icon when my camera's off and things like that. I think the advantage is maybe my system is more up to date on its own than would be true if I were using the more primitive version of it, but I'm not certain. Just thinking that might be helpful. I don't pay anything for it, so it's still free.
So would everybody like to? Why don't you can discuss that with
We do
Bob
that.
maybe after,
I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would everybody like to try it for if we did this, we would have to start it in May? Right.
No, not necessarily. You can choose to start it in April if you'd like. I have not scheduled any applications or let them know that it's Zoom or in person yet. So I would just like to know ahead of time for the applicant's sake and for legal advertising reasons and for, my agenda and such. And I know that knowing ahead of time is great. I usually post the meeting on the website. I do have a hearing schedule with a submission deadline for the applications. On there, it does say that it is strictly Zoom right now. So I would like to be able to update that as soon as possible. So we could decide to try this, like Sarah said, kind of like the airport committee. You can run from April to October in person and then go back to Zoom in the winter months from November to March. But this is,
You
like I
guys
said, kind of up to you.
You guys promising the town hall air conditioning is going to work this summer?
I make no promises. I don't have any.
I figured this is the year to ask that. Thinking about changing because it didn't last year.
Rather than do
Go to the bandstand.
rather than do a vote, how about I go around to every one of you and you say, I want to stay just with our doing it remotely. I want to completely, as of next month, be in the building. Or you might say, I want to be in the building, but not until May or June, and then go back. So I'd rather hear from all of you than make up some proposition that not everybody is thrilled with. So Barbara.
Definitely in person, April to October. We could certainly do Zoom November to March, and then in March 2025, we're going to be in-house anyway.
Probably.
So that's a fair compromise. It's a split down the middle.
Yeah.
And just as an FYI,
Bob,
I won't be here in April. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's what. Yeah. Bob.
I agree with Barbara. I mean, I think if we could try it and see if it works and plan to do it either April or May through October, I think that's fine. And I hope that it can work and that we like it. And if it doesn't, we can retreat to Zoom, and we might do that anyway, as Jack was suggesting. And I have no problem with that.
Marilyn?
I'm all for Zoom. Thanks.
If we do in person for a few months, again, I've said this to you already, I'd be happy to come pick you up and have company coming and going.
It's not my biggest problem.
Yeah, okay. I mean, or I can. I mean, if it's transportation related, we can figure that out for you. I don't know. I'm not trying to be nosy about it either, by the way.
George?
We'll do what we can to make it easy.
Yeah. George, how are you feeling about this?
I like the combined meeting and Zoom for the winter because of the transportation issues for me.
Sure.
I like the idea of face-to-face as much as possible. And I think the spring, summer, and fall face-to-face is preferred, and the winter months, November, December, January, and February, and perhaps March, are best done by Zoom.
All right. How about you, Jack?
Oh, I'm all for the combination. I think the travel in the winter is kind of brutal on the Cape, so I think it would be great.
So I'm going to
I think it would be great.
I'm going to make a motion, and that can be something we vote on. And my motion is that we go back to being in person this coming April through October, and that we then go to Zoom from November through, including March.
March
2025 when the remote is over.
So we don't know if it will be, but likely, yeah.
Yeah, for the state
from
legislation,
November
it
to
is
March
through the end of March. So
2020.
our March meeting could be via Zoom.
Okay.
So that you're aware.
Right. Okay, so how about a vote on that? Again, in person, April through October, Zoom, November through March of 2025. So Barbara?
And the
Uh,
meeting place is,
It'll most likely be in the selectmen's conference room at the town hall, George.
okay,
Right.
back to
Barbara,
me,
your vote?
yes. Yes, I agree with the split. It's a
Okay,
perfect
Bob?
solution.
I agree.
Marilyn?
No,
All right, Jack?
yes,
And George?
yes.
And I'll vote yes, too. I mean, we have a quorum. I mean, we already had enough votes to pass it.
So, and who is missing only from this vote? Only Cheryl?
Cheryl and
Just-
Cheryl at the last meeting did vote, well, she did not vote. We did not have a vote on it, but she did express that she would be happy to go back to in person.
Thank you, Erica. That's what I thought too. I just want to try to include that.
I
in
guess-
much as we could in this.
I guess that's what we will be doing starting this next month. If for some reason, Erica, you find it just isn't going to work April, then we can certainly make it May. You let us know if there's a reason,
Yeah, I will look into booking the selectmen's conference room tomorrow, as well as just making sure that Cheryl is aware of the change as well, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Great.
All right, Community Preservation Committee update. Marilyn.
thank you. Our agenda showed a couple of historic town-owned properties on the agenda. The meeting was yesterday, and DPW had several projects they submitted letters of intent to seek funding for. And that included the historic preservation projects, the historic projects. The armory for exterior work on including maybe new doors and windows, and also the West Barnstable railroad station. But as it turned out, I guess the DPW wasn't quite ready for those proposals to be considered. So we did not actually consider them, and they weren't presented, and we didn't vote on them. So those are going to come up sometime in the future when the DPW is ready, I guess. So instead of those, the other projects they submitted were playgrounds at the Centerville School, the Osterville School, and I'm trying to remember, was there something in Katuitt? But anyway, nothing historic was, even though the agenda would appear to include it, nothing was actually considered that was historic yesterday.
Thank you. I know the railway station or the National Railway Historic Society chapter in West Barnstable is very anxious to get roof work done and things like that. And it's been a long time coming.
Yeah,
And it's actually been an even longer time coming for the Payne Black House.
Yeah.
Sounds like not a
They
moment.
did their initial thing. And it's what?
It sounds like not a moment too soon for the railroad station, because they mentioned not only the roof but also replacing the ceiling, which seems to be a clue that the roof has already failed.
Yeah, no, they've been having trouble with it for years, and there've been administrative issues because of the nature of the lease and such, and who's on the hook for what. I mean, not to go into any detail, but it's been a complicated process. I think everybody's with good faith trying to work their way through it. It's just, 3 steps forward and a couple back, and then 1 forward and 4 back, and eventually they're getting there, but it's a challenge. I didn't know about the armory though. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
presumably
I'll talk to you later about the Payne Black House. I don't want to hold up everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on, yes. Discussion of upcoming historical events open to the public. I have some coming, but next month.
Yeah, I don't know of any offhand.
For our next meeting, Nancy?
Yeah, something
Before our
happening
next
between
meeting?
now and our next meeting. Yeah. No? Okay, just correspondence, new section 106 filing by T-Mobile for antenna modification upgrade on an existing building with minimal ground disturbance at 320 Main Street, Hyannis. Are we really needing to do something there?
No, so this is just, again, it's correspondence for any section 106 that comes in. We let the historical commission know. Same thing with, if it has to do with, in the Old Kings Highway district as well, we let them know. So it does, come into that because it is in a historical building. It is on Main Street. So normally the Barnstable Historical Commission does defer to the Hyannis Main Street Waterfront District. But I do include it in the correspondence. So this is just for an upgrade of an antenna, which is within the church there. So there is no exterior changes, but that's just for an FYI for you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, approval of minutes, January 16th, 2024. Yes,
I
Eric?
realized I forgot to send them to Marilyn for editing, so I don't have any minutes to approve. So as a point of order, I wanted to circle back to the election of chair conversation.
Sure.
We did talk about it at the last meeting a little bit because we don't have a chair at the moment. I didn't know if any conversation had been had or any thought to if anyone would like to chair up until June, or if we would like to keep it like this for now until the June meeting where we do our annual officer elections.
I'm not done to be the chairman a lot longer, but
Would you mind doing it until June, Nancy? I know you're busy, but it just strikes me as a logical transition point, if that's the right term.
I don't think that a new annual year matters so much. How about if I do it one more month? And at the end of our next meeting, we vote.
You wouldn't mind if we renominate you, would you?
Yes.
You would, wouldn't you? Yes.
I'm just going to keep trying.
I'm truly working 7 days a week. Books are coming in. It's lovely, but it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't go anywhere. I just am home working. So it would nice to have that one pressure off. Yeah.
So you'll get to drive into Hyannis next month, huh?
Who I will?
We all will.
Yeah, for the meeting.
Yeah.
You're going to get to leave your house.
It'll be like going to Paris or something, Yeah.
I do ask that everyone keep this in mind. Obviously, Nancy has expressed that she would not like to chair, but please keep in mind who you might like to have as chair for the commission. I also do know that, as a little bit of a side topic, that there has been interest in perhaps a little bit of a refresher / knowledge for the code, the ordinance that pertains to this commission for 112, as well as, adding in the different zoning amendments that have come through recently, especially in downtown Hyannis and how it pertains to this commission. So is anybody, I just wanted to reach out and see if who is interested in, either via Zoom or in person, who would like to have a conversation about our ordinance and kind of going over it, a little bit of a refresher.
I would be.
Yeah, I would
Absolutely
definitely be. I've even brought it up a couple of times just to be a nudge. I think it's really important, especially in the context of the new zoning districts and zoning overlays, for us to understand not just the intention of them, but the mechanics of them, only to the extent and in the simplest way possible, how we will encounter them as a historical commission with historic buildings. And so we don't fumble the ball. And so we aren't obstructionist or aren't viewed as being obstructionist, but we still get to do the job we're here to do. And, maybe it's as simple as that sounded, but I'm afraid it might not be. And I mentioned this at a recent other meeting, and there was quite a warm reception to the idea by other than just historical commission people. So the concept of this may grow. And, whether we start it from the bottom up or it ends up coming at us from the top down, I don't personally care, but I think it's valuable.
Eric, related to that too, I was talking with another member, and I wouldn't mind seeing something like the Citizens Academy where we get to talk with many of the not all 14 or whatever departments, but if we had a one-on-one with the planning and development, some kind of meeting just to give us all a little more understanding of how our town works, and things that can apply to what we have a purview over.
Yeah,
Almost like
I have brought it up with Elizabeth. She is very much for it. So I think we just need to find a date, and I'm gonna talk with Elizabeth, see what she has opened up, and see if we can get a couple of dates in mind and try to send it out to everyone on the commission and see if we can come up with a date that works for everyone or mostly everyone on the commission.
Cool. Could we try to include
Good.
legal in that as one of the departments that would be represented? I'm thinking about some of the Section 106 stuff and some of what I misunderstood because I wasn't part of this commission early enough to know that we had a committee set up a long time ago. I started attending the Section 106 things as soon as I was an alternate, and I didn't do any harm with that, but I didn't realize that I wasn't really officially there with my nose in the tent. And then I had questions about it, and some of them became interesting legal questions about what our obligations are or what the timing is for when we do or don't or can or cannot make comments. And I gather the legal department is where the buck stops with that, more so even than planning, or more than Elizabeth. I'm sure they work very closely together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the
that's a
reasons
great
I think it's a bigger
suggestion.
deal.
That's a great suggestion. And honestly, Tom LaRosa has really been working on the wind aspects of the Section 106, any of the wind projects.
That's what
And I know
brought it up.
he has really delved into those. So Tom would be, and anyone in the meantime who has any questions about the wind projects, they are very, very complex. Please reach out to Tom LaRosa. In the meantime, he is more than happy to speak with anyone regarding those projects.
That's super. And last,
but yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, and another one that hopefully we can combine our times with to meet.
well, and the building commissioner spent time with this commission a couple of years ago in the context of a demolition by neglect bylaw potential. And I thought everyone sounded to me like they were really pleased with his input and his ability to meet. And that's probably one of the most relevant departments for what we do.
They are our enforcement agent.
They are. I mean, literally, that's right, George, and rightly so.
There are
That's the
other
way that
commissions.
it works.
There are other commissions who are talking about demolition by neglect too. Quite a few of them. You probably know them.
Okay.
We do
Also,
something joint with that.
years ago, and I don't know if it's still true in the ordinance written for Conservation Commission, but they used to have as part of the legislation for them historic preservation or the preservation of historic and cultural resources. And every once in a while, they would have someone who was a commissioner who would champion that and kind of look out for all kinds of things that would come by them that might include archaeological sites or the remains of historic buildings or things of that nature. And I think, the more bases we can cover together and in unison with our colleagues, the better. So, I mean, there's probably quite a long list of possible examples of who could play with us on this stuff and we with them. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Think of the positive things that happened today, that because we put on a demo delay, that both of those cement stone posts will still be in the neighborhood, and also that one part of the church will now be part of another church. Those are, our demo delays are a good thing, and I was always shocked when it went from 6 months to 18 months. But we do also want to let people know we're very amenable to coming back in 3 months or 5 months and giving them another.
That's key to it. I mean, with 18 months, the bylaw has some teeth. With 6 months,
yeah.
Oh, it almost takes that long to plan a project anyway. I mean, it's vastly improved.
Yeah. It takes 6 months to get the drawings done.
Exactly, George. That's just what I was thinking.
Can anybody tell me what's happened with the solar initiative to eliminate historic oversight for those energy initiatives like wind turbines and solar arrays, especially in historic districts?
I can speak to that just a little bit and say what I don't know, which is not, is most of my answer. I have been in communication with Councillor Gordon Starr and with Barnstable resident Jean Gwill on this very subject. And there has been correspondence back and forth, not between me and Senator Julian Cyr, but between one or both of them in the last 3 or 4 months. And as part of our critique, if you will, of the proposed legislation that was being put together by staff for Senator Cyr, he has appointed a different person to revise the legislation. And that's where it was left as of mid-December. And I have not heard any follow-up. I have not been in touch with the staff person, who I think is his staff director at this point. His name escapes me. But it's very important. I'm glad you asked, George. The objective of the initiative initially was to smooth the way for energy improvement projects in historic districts, not have them automatically defeated by aesthetic concerns or historic concerns. And in particular, along Route 6A, the Old Kings Highway took a hit from the initial proposals for this bill, where they were denying, and still are, and I think rightly so, denying solar arrays on a roof deck that faces 6A, that's in the immediate historic district or the historic district corridor of 6A, the Old Kings Highway. And as a response to the bill's initial proposal, Attorney Jim Wilson, who also chairs the Regional Commission, rewrote a side, it's not quite a bylaw, but it's an amendment, if you will. It's an exemption channel that can be followed by applicants, so that unless they are in that corridor, they may in fact get an exemption for even locating on the facade roof deck. But within the district, they would continue to be considered for and generally receive permission to install solar on other adjacent roof lines not facing 6A or not visible from the public way. And I think that compromise has been helpful. And I think because of it, it's one of the reasons they're going back to revise the initial draft legislation. I don't know where it stands in terms of its production. I don't know where it stands in committees and things like that. And off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of the bill, but Erica, you're nodding. I'm glad, because you know.
I know exactly
That's
what you're
awesome.
speaking of. I also admin for the Old Kings Highway District.
There you go.
So I do a lot of work with them. And Bob is correct. So when this first came through from Julian Cyr, the Old Kings Highway did work to compromise on the ability to for green and sustainable energy concerning solar panels. And they did come up with a certificate of exemption for front-facing panels that you could see from the road for structures that are not 75 years or older. So, newer structures, as well as structures that are not contributing within the district. So that's basically, there's a little bit more to that criteria than just those two items, because they do want to keep some part of the aesthetics. But that is the compromise that they did come to. And a lot of certificate of exemptions have come in for those. We do still have a lot that come through as certificates of appropriateness. So they do attend meetings. If it is, a structure that is 75 years or older, or it's a structure on, even if it's not 75 years older, if it's on a scenic road, it still must come before the committee to be approved. And as last as I knew, is the same with Bob, is that it was through the pipeline. A member of the West Barnstable Village did come to speak to the committee about the bill that Julian Cyr has been working on. And, kind of give the committee, because she wanted to make sure the committee was aware of this bill.
I'm really glad.
As it pertains to this commission itself, I I send any solar panels that are coming through on a historic structure, if it is on the National Register or if it is on a national, or is it a contributing structure within the National Register district, to the chair for review. And the main thing that is looking for is that no structural changes are happening, because the ordinance for this commission has to do strictly with demolition. So most times when solar panels are being added, they are not considered demolition, because nothing's being taken away from the structure. It's just being, put on the structure. So I do any National Register houses or contributing structures within a National Register district. The chair does review those items, and I tell applicants when they're going through that process for the initial determination to follow the Secretary of Interior's guidelines on solar panels on historic structures. And if anyone is interested in looking at those, I can send those to you via email if you'd like. There is a lot of information on the National Park Service website regarding that.
That would be awesome, because that stuff's well written, and it's not like reading the wind farm agreements, which are deep and thick. It actually makes some sense. That's
For
great.
those of you, I'm on both of these committees. I'm not on Hyannis Main Street anymore, but I am on Old Greens Highway. And we defended the district against a very aggressive solar panel application that was put forth by one of the solar suppliers and installers on a house that was squarely in the line of sight traveling down Route 6A. We defended at regional, and we were then defendants in the Superior Court to defend our decision to deny solar panels on that particular property. The judge lived, I found out the judge lived not more than a quarter of a mile away from the subject property. And he wasn't aware of the number of historic buildings that were within walking distance of his own house, and the fact that his own house was scaled and modeled after historic buildings as part of the development that he was a part of. We need to put forth our position as often as possible, because there are an awful lot of people that live in the historic district that are totally unaware of our existence. That our purpose for being there is to keep the value of their property high, to keep the historic value in the forefront, rather than, as in some of the other historic districts, as an object or a meeting place to simply give people a look at historic buildings. We have people come from Alaska to look at Route 6A, especially during our holiday season, the 4th of July, et cetera. And it's a major draw for people across the country, because it's one of the largest historic districts in the country. And most people are unaware of that, but it's 39 miles of historic structures. And so we have been in conflict with the solar people on a continuing basis. And I think this legislation that they're looking for is a backdoor to eliminate their having to come before us at all.
That's exactly
right. It's not that we don't grant. It's not as if we don't grant.
I have to go. I have a meeting at 5:30. Who will take over for me? Barbara? All you have to do is set the next meeting date and adjourn.
Okay.
Continue your conversation.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have to leave. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Nancy.
You in person.
Nancy.
It's a hugely important topic, and I had dinner with Gordon Starr a couple of nights ago, and I asked him, had he heard anything more, because I didn't want to, step on any toes, and he said no, absolutely, he had not been in touch with Senator Sears, director of services, or whatever the correct term is, and he thought it would be fine if I reached out to him. Since I have his email address and his name, and I've been introduced that way, I think I will. I just want to find out what's going on. But George, you're right. It's not just a back door to not being challenged. It goes even further than that. The very last item in what was being proposed for this bill completely repealed Article 12, or Section 12, excuse me, in the Old Kings Highway Act, which is the enforcement article. And,
Right.
without it, the Old Kings Highway might as well just pack it up, which would be a national travesty. It would be awful. And I don't think anybody really intended that, but the cautionary tale here is that when the industry is involved in lobbying for a thing, it's not always going to be an altruistic endeavor that's for the good of the world, the country, and us people. It's also because they're making money at it, and I don't blame them for that, but we have to watch out for it. And I think that's what was going on there. They had their noses deep in the tent, and it just wasn't being recognized. So,
My perfect example of that is the leg hold traps. That legislation was put forth as the canard was that it was to prevent the cruelty to animals, and it got all the gray hairs voting for the abolition of the leg hold traps. What they didn't understand is it was a way to get the environmental people into the fold with the fishermen and the hunters to get a piece of their fee that they pay into the fund for the promotion of their particular pleasures, the fishing and hunting. And it was just a back door to get those funds available for the environmentalists. Of course, the part that they didn't understand was that very few leg hold traps were issued, something less than 300 in a year, and that they were being used to trap beavers that were building dams that were flooding neighborhoods. And it was the only way they could get rid of them. They couldn't stand around shooting them, so they had to trap them in order to remove them.
I certainly see the analogy.
You have to always look at the back door.
It's a little far afield, but I get your point.
Well, the point is that you have to always look at the back door in any legislation, because the real purpose of an awful lot of it is concealed in
That's true. On a more positive note, I think one of the things we should look forward to is a response by technology to accommodate the aesthetic requirements of historic districts better. And I don't know where we are in terms of timeline, but eventually I believe there will be individual architectural shaped shingles that can be applied to roof decks that will mimic the texture and, at least from some distance, the look of a regular shingled roof, and still pick up and transmit the solar energy in a meaningful, efficient way. And it's kind of a win-win for everyone. We're not there yet, but
those already exist, Bob. They're just not readily available.
I was hoping you'd say that. See, that's the kind of compromise I think has to get made, when this sort of thing comes up. So I hope.
Well, I've always said that I don't object to solar panels, but I think they need to be part of the design, not just an add-on. It's like if the garage is part of the property in the historic districts, it ought to be located in such a way as to mimic what was appropriate transportation when the historic district was when the date for the historic district was established. Route 6A, we we honor the time period of the Civil War and post-Civil War time on either side of the Civil War. And, the garage didn't go in the front yard. It was a barn in back for the horse. And I think we have to treat solar panels and wind turbines in the same way, just as we do on Route 6A when you start talking about fences. Putting up a 6-foot fence in the front yard was not appropriate during the Civil War period.
Mm-hmm.
It was used to keep animals out of the vegetable garden, not to quiet down the highway road noise by putting up some kind of barrier. And the fences between houses were limited because of the fact that neighbors looked out for each other.
Hey, George. George,
so
we love you. We love you, and you're right.
Yeah.
But I think you're losing us for time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have to call it. It's
sorry
after
about
four.
No, that's okay. Barbara's got to do her
I
thing here.
understand. And
So,
I yield to the chair.
Nancy asked me to remind everyone that the next meeting is Tuesday, April 16th. And pending further notice, we will be in person.
Awesome.
April 16th in person.
Hopefully, yes.
I will
Okay.
send out a email once I book the meeting room.
Thank you, Erica. That's great.
Okay, then I believe the meeting is adjourned.
I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you.
A second,
I'll second.
and then a roll call vote.
Okay, can I just go by the photos? Because I put my.
Yep, that's fine.
It's a good idea.
Bob Frazee,
Aye.
Marilyn. Aye. George Jessup,
Aye.
Jack Kay,
Aye.
and myself, Barbara DiBiase. I
Fabulous.
vote aye as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Everyone, have a good night.
Erica, can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
I just wanted to remind you that I am